Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku was a serial killer and manipulated everyone, Izuku x Harem, part 1. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel and like this video, so let's begin the video. The morning sun filtered through the curtains of the small Midoriya apartment, casting gentle shadows across the room where Izuku Midoriya sat at his desk. His fingers moved methodically across the pages of his notebook, not the hero analysis journals everyone knew about, but something far more personal and dangerous. This notebook contained detailed psychological profiles, behavioral patterns, emotional vulnerabilities, and manipulation strategies for nearly everyone he had ever met. Izuku paused his writing and stared at his reflection in the small mirror propped against his textbooks. Green eyes stared back at him, wide and innocent, framed by unruly dark green hair that gave him a perpetually youthful appearance. Most people saw a kind boy, someone who wore his heart on his sleeve, someone genuine and pure. They had no idea how carefully constructed that image was. At 15 years old, Izuku had spent the better part of a decade perfecting his greatest talent. Not a quirk, because he was quirkless, but something potentially more powerful. The ability to read people, to understand what made them tick, to become exactly what they needed him to be. Some might call it manipulation, but Izuku preferred to think of it as social engineering, the ultimate support skill for someone who wanted to change the world. His phone buzzed with a reminder. Today was the day. His first day at UA High School, the most prestigious hero academy in Japan, possibly the world. Against all odds, the quirkless boy had been accepted, and not through some miraculous quirk awakening or hidden power. He had earned his place through pure strategic brilliance during the entrance exam. Izuku closed his notebook and locked it in his desk drawer, then stood and stretched. His body was lean and well trained, the result of years of rigorous physical conditioning. If he could not rely on a quirk, he needed every other advantage he could develop. He had studied martial arts, parkour, strategic planning, psychology, and countless other disciplines. His mind was his weapon, and he had sharpened it to a razor's edge. His mother, Inko, knocked softly on his door before entering with a bright smile. She was a small woman with green hair like his, her face kind and perpetually worried about her son. "Breakfast is ready, Izuku. I made your favorite to celebrate your first day." "Thanks, Mom," Izuku said, allowing warmth to fill his voice. With his mother, the affection was real, one of the few genuine emotional connections he maintained. She had supported him through everything, never giving up on his dream, even when the world told him it was impossible. Over breakfast, Inko fussed over his uniform, straightening his tie and smoothing his jacket. She took dozens of photos, her eyes glistening with proud tears. "My baby, going to UA. I am so proud of you, Izuku." "I could not have done it without you, Mom," he replied, hugging her tightly. And he meant it. Inko had been his anchor, the one person who loved him unconditionally. In his own way, he loved her back, even if his definition of love was somewhat different from most people's. The train ride to UA was filled with students in various school uniforms, but the distinctive UA uniform made Izuku stand out. Several students glanced at him with curiosity or envy. He kept his expression neutral but friendly, approachable but not overeager. First impressions mattered, and he was making dozens of them before even reaching the school. UA's campus was massive, a sprawling complex of buildings that looked more like a small city than a school. The main building loomed ahead, all glass and steel and architectural ambition. Students streamed through the gates, their chatter filling the air with nervous energy and excitement. Izuku walked with purpose but not arrogance, his posture confident but not aggressive. He had studied body language extensively and knew exactly how to present himself. As he climbed the steps to the main entrance, he began his real work, observation. The tall girl with a ponytail was reviewing notes as she walked, her expensive bag and perfect posture screaming wealth and pressure. A pink-skinned girl was bouncing excitedly, chatting with anyone who would listen, her energy infectious but slightly desperate for approval. A frog-like girl walked calmly, her large eyes taking in everything with quiet intelligence. Each person was a puzzle, and Izuku was very good at solving puzzles. He found Class 1A easily enough, the door massive and imposing. Taking a breath, Izuku adjusted his expression to one of nervous excitement, wide-eyed and earnest, and stepped inside. The classroom was already half full, students clustered in groups or sitting alone. Izuku's eyes swept the room in microseconds, his brain processing and categorizing at superhuman speed. This was his talent, his real quirk, the ability to analyze and understand people with frightening accuracy. Near the window sat a girl with shoulder-length brown hair and a round, friendly face. She was floating a pencil above her desk, practicing her quirk with intense concentration. Her uniform was neat but not expensive, her shoes practical rather than fashionable. Working class background, determined, self-conscious about money. She would be seeking validation and friendship, eager to prove her worth. At a desk in the back sat the girl with a black ponytail he had noticed outside. Momoyae Rozu, he recognized her from the recommendation exam rankings. Wealthy family, incredible quirk, but she had placed poorly in the practical exam. That failure would be eating at her, creating self-doubt beneath her composed exterior. She would be hungry for intellectual stimulation and someone who saw past her privilege. The pink-skinned girl, Mina Ishido, was already making friends with a blonde boy who had a sparkly appearance. Her laughter was genuine but slightly too loud, her enthusiasm a shield against being dismissed as shallow. She would respond well to being taken seriously, to someone who saw depth beneath her bubbly exterior. The frog girl, Tsuyu Asui, sat calmly reading, her expression neutral. She was harder to read, which made her interesting. Direct communicator, observant, probably saw through social games more easily than most. She would require a different approach, honesty mixed with strategic openness. Izuku made his first calculated move. He walked toward the brown-haired girl, his path slightly awkward, and stumbled just enough to catch himself on her desk without actually falling. It looked natural, the kind of first-day clumsiness anyone might have. "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry," he said, his cheeks flushing with perfectly practiced embarrassment. "First-day nerves, you know. I am a total mess." The girl giggled, her tension immediately melting. Her body language opened up, shoulders relaxing, smile becoming genuine. "No worries at all. I am pretty nervous too. I am a Chaco Uraraka, by the way." "Izuku Midoriya," he replied, offering his hand. "That is an amazing quirk you have there. Zero gravity, right? The control you are showing is really impressive." The Chaco's eyes lit up like fireworks, surprise and pleasure flooding her expression. "You really think so? Most people just think it is kind of simple or only good for making things float." "Simple," Izuku laughed softly, shaking his head. "Are you kidding? The physics involved in maintaining stable zero-gravity fields, the concentration needed to keep multiple objects weightless simultaneously, the potential applications in rescue work alone." He leaned in slightly, voice becoming more animated. "You could save hundreds of lives with that kind of precision. Collapsed buildings, trapped civilians, dangerous debris, you could handle it all. Plus, the combat applications are incredible if you think creatively." The Chaco's cheeks turned pink, her smile growing wider. "Wow, I never thought about it like that. You are really smart, Midoriya." "Just observant," he replied modestly. "When you do not have a quirk yourself, you learn to appreciate how amazing everyone else's abilities are." "Wait, you are quirkless?" a Chaco asked, surprise evident but not unkind. "Yep," Izuku confirmed, allowing a hint of vulnerability into his expression. "Born without one. But I figured if I could not have a quirk, I would just have to work twice as hard in every other way. Hence, UA." "That is so cool," Achako said genuinely. "I mean, not cool that you do not have a quirk, but cool that you did not let it stop you. That takes real courage." Before Izuku could respond, an explosion erupted from the doorway. A blonde boy with spiky hair and a perpetual scowl stormed in, radiating aggression and superiority. Kitsuki Bakugo, Izuku's childhood acquaintance and the embodiment of everything Izuku had learned to manipulate around. "Get out of my way, extras," Bakugo snarled at students near the door. Right behind him came a tall boy with dark blue hair and glasses, his movements sharp and mechanical. "Excuse me, you should not speak to our classmate so rudely. We are all here to become heroes together. I am Tenya Iida, from Same Private Academy." "Do I look like I care, robot face?" Bakugo snapped. Izuku watched the interaction with interest. Bakugo was all rage and inferiority complex masked as superiority, desperately needing to be the best to validate his existence. Iida was rigid, rule-focused, carrying the weight of family legacy. Both would be complications but manageable ones. "Is that Bakugo?" Achako whispered. "I heard about him from the entrance exam. He is supposed to be really powerful but kind of scary." "We were childhood friends," Izuku said quietly. "Well, friend might be too strong a word. He has always been intense." "You know him?" Achako asked, curious. "Yeah," Izuku replied, carefully modulating his tone to sound resigned but not bitter. "He used to call me Deku, which means useless. Not the nicest nickname." "That is terrible," Achako said, genuine upset in her voice. "But you know what, Deku also sounds like Dekiru, like you can do it in Japanese. I think it is kind of a cute name actually." Izuku paused, letting surprise and then cautious hope cross his face. "You really think so?" "Totally," Achako nodded enthusiastically. "If someone called me a mean name, I would want to take it back and make it mean something good instead. Deku could be the name of a hero who never gives up, who proves everyone wrong." "I really like that," Izuku said softly, allowing genuine emotion to enter his voice. "Thank you, Uraraka. That means a lot." "Call me Achako," she said, grinning. "We are going to be classmates and hopefully friends, right?" "I would really like that, Achako," he replied warmly. The moment was interrupted by the arrival of more students. A boy with red and white hair entered, his expression cold and distant. Shoto Todoroki, son of the number 2 hero Endeavor, carrying family trauma like a weight on his shoulders. A girl with earphone jacks hanging from her earlobes took a seat, Kyokujiro, defensive and artistic. A small boy with purple hair, Minoru Mineta, whose eyes immediately went to the girls in a way that made Izuku's skin crawl. Each student was a variable, a potential asset or obstacle. Izuku filed them all away, building profiles in real time. Then the classroom door opened again, and Momo Yaoi Rozu entered. She moved with practiced grace, but Izuku noticed the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes scanned the room assessing threats and judgments. She took a seat near the back, pulled out her notes, and began reviewing them with intense focus. Izuku excused himself from Michako and made his approach. He stopped beside Momo's desk, waiting until she looked up. "Yaoi Rozu, right," he said politely. "I noticed your performance during the entrance exam rankings. Your creation quirk application was really impressive, especially that Russian nesting doll strategy during the mobility test." Momo's eyes widened slightly, surprise breaking through her composed exterior. "You noticed that? Most people just saw the final ranking." "Details matter," Izuku said simply. "Especially when it comes to quirk applications. The way you used physics and momentum, creating progressively larger dolls to build speed, that was genius-level strategic thinking." A faint blush colored Momo's cheeks. "Thank you, that is very kind. Though I must admit, my practical exam results were disappointing. I had hoped to perform better." Izuku pulled up a nearby chair, his body language open and respectful. "If you do not mind me saying, I think you were overthinking it. Your quirk requires knowledge and creativity, but in high-pressure situations, sometimes we second-guess ourselves too much. From what I saw, your technical execution was flawless. It is the mental game that needs work, not your abilities." Momo studied him carefully, her sharp mind clearly processing his words. "You are very perceptive, Midoriya. Most people do not bother to analyze beyond surface-level observations. When you do not have a quirk, you learn to compensate by understanding how they work," Izuku said with a self-deprecating smile. "I have spent years studying hero quirks, their applications, their limitations. It is kind of my thing." "That is actually quite impressive," Momo said, genuine interest replacing her guarded expression. "I would very much like to discuss quirk theory with you sometime. It is rare to find someone who appreciates the intellectual aspects of hero work." "I would love that," Izuku replied. "Maybe we could form a study group. I noticed a few other students who might benefit from collaborative learning." "That is an excellent idea," Momo agreed. "Strategic thinking and shared knowledge could give our class a significant advantage." As they talked, Izuku noticed Mina Ashido glancing over, curiosity evident on her expressive face. He filed that away for later approach. The classroom gradually filled with all 20 students. Izuku returned to a seat near Ichako, maintaining that connection while keeping Momo in his peripheral awareness. The energy in the room was electric, nervous excitement mixed with competitive tension. At exactly 8:30, the door opened and everyone's attention snapped forward. But instead of a teacher walking in, a yellow sleeping bag on the floor wriggled through the doorway. The class stared in confusion as the sleeping bag inchwormed its way to the front of the room. Then a tired-looking man with long black hair and stubble emerged from the sleeping bag, his eyes bloodshot and surrounded by bags that suggested chronic insomnia. His hero costume was visible underneath casual clothes, the distinctive goggles and capture weapon of Eraserhead. "It took 8 seconds for you all to quiet down," the man said in a monotone voice. "That is not rational behavior. Time is precious. You kids need to learn to be more aware." The class fell completely silent, the casual authority in his voice cutting through the confusion. "I am Shota Izawa, your homeroom teacher," he continued, pulling a UA gym uniform from his sleeping bag. "Put these on and head to the grounds immediately. We are starting with a quirk apprehension test." Murmurs of confusion rippled through the class. A test on the first day. What about the entrance ceremony? The orientation? "If you want to be heroes, you do not have time for frivolous ceremonies," as always said bluntly. "UA is about pushing you to your limits and beyond. We are starting now." 30 minutes later, Class 1A stood on one of UA's many training grounds, all wearing matching gym uniforms. The grounds were massive, equipped for every type of physical test imaginable. Izawa stood before them holding a clipboard and softball. The country still uses standardized physical tests, even though they do not account for quirks. It is irrational. "So today, you will retake these tests, but this time, you can use your quirks however you want." He turned to Bakugo. "You placed first in the entrance exam. Come demonstrate." Bakugo swaggered forward, cocky grin in place. "About time. Throw this softball," Izawa instructed, handing it over. "You could do this in middle school without your quirk. Now try it with your power. Do whatever you want as long as you stay in the circle." Bakugo wound up, his expression fierce. "Die," he screamed, and his explosion propelled the ball into the stratosphere. Izawa held up a device showing the distance. 705.2 meters. "See, this is what you can accomplish by incorporating your quirks. Now then, the student who ranks last in total scores will be judged as having no potential and will be expelled immediately. The announcement hit like a bomb. Several students gasped, Achako's face went pale, and even Iida looked shocked. Izuku's mind went into overdrive. This was a test of adaptability, strategy, and mental fortitude as much as physical ability. Aizawa was evaluating how they handled pressure, not just raw power. The expulsion threat was likely a motivational tool, but possibly real. Either way, Izuku needed to perform well while also helping secure his investments. The tests began. 50-meter dash, grip strength, standing long jump, sustained sideways jumps, softball throw, distance run, sit-ups, and seated toe touch. Each test showcased different quirks in action. Iida's engine quirk made him blur through the 50-meter dash. Achako made herself weightless for the long jump. Bakugo used explosions for nearly everything. Todoroki created ice ramps and structures with effortless power. Izuku approached each test strategically. For the 50-meter dash, he used pure technique and explosive starts he had practiced for years. His time was decent, not the best but respectable. For grip strength, he used knowledge of pressure points and leverage to maximize his score. But his real work happened between his own tests. When Achako looked nervous about the softball throw, Izuku was there. "Hey," he said quietly as they waited in line. "Remember what we talked about earlier. Your quirk is not just about making things float. Think about trajectory and release timing. Make the ball weightless at the exact moment of release. Your throwing power will combine with zero resistance. The ball will keep going until gravity kicks back in." Her eyes lit up with understanding. "Oh my gosh, you are right. Thanks Deku." When her turn came, Achako implemented the strategy perfectly. Her ball sailed far into the sky, earning her infinity as a score since it entered orbit. During the long jump, Izuku noticed Mina struggling with the approach. Her acid quirk was powerful, but she was not sure how to apply it here. "Mina," he called out during a break. "Your acid can melt through surfaces, right? What if you used it to create a slick surface behind you while jumping? Reduced friction means more distance even without enhanced jumping power." Mina's face brightened. "Deku, you are a genius." She tried the technique and her distance improved dramatically. For Momo, who was overthinking every test, Izuku offered a different kind of support. During the seated toe touch, he caught her eye and simply said, "Stop thinking. Just create and move. Your body knows what to do." A simple permission to stop overanalyzing helped her relax, and her performance improved. Izuku's own performance was middle of the pack in most tests, but his strategic mind shone through. During the sustained sideways jumps, he used rhythm and breathing techniques to maintain maximum efficiency. For sit-ups, he employed proper form that maximized results while minimizing fatigue. The distance run was his best event. Years of endurance training meant he could maintain a steady pace that outlasted many students with more powerful quirks. He finished in the top third, his face barely showing exertion. Throughout all of this, Aizawa watched from the sidelines, his expression unreadable, but his eyes missing nothing. Izuku knew the teacher was evaluating more than just physical performance. Leadership, teamwork, strategic thinking, these were all being measured. When all tests were complete, Aizawa called them together. The results appeared on a holographic display, rankings from 1 to 20. Izuku placed 12th overall, which was exactly where he wanted to be. High enough to be respectable, low enough not to draw excessive attention. But more importantly, Achako placed 8th, Momo placed 7th, and Mina jumped from projected bottom 5 to 15th. As for the expulsion, as always said, his tired expression unchanged, that was a logical ruse to bring out your best performances. Several students collapsed in relief, others looked annoyed at being tricked. But Izuku noticed how the test had bonded certain groups together. Students who had helped each other were already forming connections. "That is all for today," as always said. "Collect a syllabus from the classroom and go home. Tomorrow the real training begins." As the class dispersed, Achako practically bounced over to Izuku. "Deku, your advice totally saved me. That infinity score was amazing." "You did all the work," Izuku deflected smoothly. "I just pointed out what you were already capable of." "Still, you are like a secret weapon," she grinned. "A quirkless strategist who makes everyone else stronger. That is actually really heroic." Before Izuku could respond, Momo approached. "Midoriya, I wanted to thank you as well. Your observation about my overthinking was quite accurate. I tend to get trapped in analysis paralysis." "You are brilliant, Momo," Izuku said genuinely. "Sometimes brilliant people just need permission to trust their instincts." Mina jogged over, her pink skin glistening with sweat, but her smile bright. "Deku, that friction trick was clutch. You have got to join our study group. We need your big brain energy." "I would love to," Izuku agreed. "The more we work together, the stronger we all become." As the four of them walked back toward the main building, chatting about the day's events, Izuku felt a quiet satisfaction. First day, and he had already established himself as helpful, strategic, and trustworthy. The foundations were being laid perfectly. Tsuyu watched the group from a short distance away, her large eyes thoughtful. She had noticed Midoriya's pattern during the tests, how he seemed to know exactly what to say to each person, how his advice was always perfectly tailored. It was either remarkable intuition or something more calculated. Either way, she found him interesting, which meant he was worth watching closely. As Izuku walked through UA's gates at the end of his first day, he allowed himself a small smile. The game had begun, and he was playing it perfectly. His phone buzzed with a message from his mother asking how his day went. He typed back a cheerful response full of enthusiasm and positive details, the kind of message a normal excited teenager would send. But in his mind, he was already planning tomorrow, next week, next month. Building relationships, establishing trust, creating bonds that would serve his ultimate goals. Whatever those goals truly were, even Izuku was not entirely sure yet. All he knew was that he was very good at making people care about him, and in a world of heroes and villains, that might be the most dangerous power of all. Part 2. Deeper Foundations. The next morning, Izuku arrived at UA 30 minutes early. The building was quiet, most students still on their way or grabbing breakfast in the cafeteria. He used the time to explore, mapping out the campus in his mind, noting security cameras, exit points, and areas where private conversations could happen without observation. Knowledge was power, and Izuku collected knowledge the way some people collected hero merchandise. He found himself in the library, a massive space filled with books on hero history, quirk theory, legal frameworks, and combat strategy. A few students were already there, studying or reading quietly. Izuku selected several books on psychological applications of quirks and found a corner table. He was not actually reading for information, he had already consumed most of these texts online, but being seen as studious and prepared reinforced his image. Plus, it was a good place to observe without seeming intrusive. Momo entered the library 20 minutes later, her bag heavy with books. She scanned the room, spotted Izuku, and made her way over. "Good morning, Midoriya," she said politely. "May I join you?" "Of course," Izuku replied, gesturing to the empty chairs. "Early bird studying." "I find the morning is when my mind is most clear," Momo said, settling in and pulling out her notes. "Last night I was reviewing the physics of quirk applications and found myself thinking about our conversation. You mentioned that I overthink, and you were absolutely right. I spent 3 hours analyzing the grip strength test when I should have just created a better grip." "That is the curse of intelligence," Izuku said sympathetically. "You see all the possibilities, all the variables, and it becomes paralyzing. But in hero work, sometimes action beats perfect planning." "How do you manage it?" Momo asked. "You are clearly very analytical, but you do not seem to suffer from analysis paralysis." "Practice," Izuku said. "And necessity. When you do not have a quirk, hesitation can be deadly. I had to learn to trust my first instinct more often. The brain is actually incredibly good at processing information subconsciously. Sometimes that gut feeling is your mind telling you something it already figured out." "That is a fascinating perspective," Momo said, pulling out a notebook and beginning to write. "Do you mind if I take notes on this?" "Not at all," Izuku replied, inwardly pleased. Momo was the type who valued knowledge above almost everything. By positioning himself as a source of valuable insights, he was becoming essential to her growth. They studied together for the next 15 minutes, occasionally discussing concepts or sharing observations. Izuku made sure to ask Momo questions that let her demonstrate her knowledge, building her confidence while also learning the edges of her expertise. When other students began arriving, including Ichako who waved enthusiastically from across the library, Izuku and Momo packed up to head to class. "Midoriya," Momo said as they walked, "I was wondering if you would be interested in a more formal study arrangement. Perhaps we could meet regularly to discuss strategy and quirk theory. Your insights would be valuable, and I believe I could help you with the academic coursework." "I would really like that," Izuku agreed immediately. "Having a study partner, especially someone as sharp as you, would be incredibly helpful." "Excellent," Momo said, a genuine smile crossing her usually serious face. "Shall we say twice a week after classes?" "Perfect," Izuku confirmed. Their homeroom class that day was taught by Aizawa, who looked even more exhausted than the day before. He spent the morning covering the basics of hero law, ethical considerations, and the legal framework that governed hero society. Izuku noticed several students struggling to stay focused. The material was dry but crucial. He took meticulous notes, not just on the content, but on which students were engaged and which were zoning out. Mineta was doodling, Kaminari was clearly lost, Kirishima was trying hard but struggling with the complex legal terminology, and even Ichako was looking overwhelmed. During the lunch break, Izuku made his move. He approached Kirishima, a boy with red spiky hair and a friendly demeanor. "Hey, Kirishima, right," Izuku said. "I noticed you were having trouble with some of the legal terminology this morning. I have been studying this stuff for years. Want to grab lunch and I can break it down in simpler terms. Hiroshimi's face lit up with relief and gratitude. Dude, that would be so manly of you. This legal stuff is making my head spin. They grabbed food from the cafeteria and Ichako, Mina, and Tsuyu naturally gravitated to their table. Soon they had a full group and Izuku found himself explaining hero law in accessible language, using real-world examples and analogies that made the concepts click. So basically, Kirishima said, understanding dawning, heroes are like police, but with more freedom and more responsibility. Exactly, Izuku confirmed. You get more flexibility to act, but you are also held to higher standards. Every action has to be justifiable. This is so helpful, Ichako said, scribbling notes on a napkin. Class makes way more sense now. Deku should be a teacher, Mina joked. Professor Midoriya's school of making boring stuff interesting. The table laughed, and Izuku felt the social bond strengthening. But he also noticed Tsuyu watching him again with that considering expression. After lunch, Tsuyu approached him directly as the others headed back to class. Midoriya, I want to ask you something, and I would appreciate an honest answer, she said in her straightforward way. Of course, Izuku replied calmly. Why do you help people so much, she asked. I have been watching you. You spend a lot of energy making sure others succeed. What do you get out of it? It was a dangerous question, one that could unravel his carefully constructed image if he answered wrong. But Tsuyu was too smart for deflection. She would see through a generic nice guy response. Izuku chose strategic honesty. Honestly, because their success helps me. I do not have a quirk, Tsu. If I want to be a hero, I need to be part of a team that trusts me and values my contributions. By helping everyone else get stronger, I become essential. They rely on me, and that gives me a place in a world that otherwise has no use for someone quirkless. Tsuyu studied him for a long moment. That is very pragmatic. And honest. I appreciate that. Does it bother you, Izuku asked, that I have ulterior motives? No, Tsuyu said simply. Everyone has motivations. At least yours align with helping people. That is better than most. Call me observant, but I think you are more complicated than you let on, Midoriya. But complicated is not bad. Thanks, Tsu, Izuku said, meaning it. Your honesty is refreshing. We should be friends, Tsuyu decided. I like people who are genuine, even when their genuine self is strategic. Just do not manipulate my friends too badly. I would find that upsetting. I will keep that in mind, Izuku replied with a slight smile. As they walked back to class together, Izuku realized Tsuyu had just become both an ally and a safeguard. She saw through him but accepted it, which meant she would also notice if he crossed lines. That made her dangerous but also valuable. Someone who could keep him honest. The afternoon brought their first hero training class with All Might, the #1 hero and symbol of peace. The blonde muscular figure burst into the classroom through the door with his signature enthusiasm. I am here, coming through the door like a normal person, All Might announced, his voice booming. The class erupted in excitement. All Might was a living legend, and having him as a teacher was beyond anyone's expectations. Welcome to the most important class at UA, All Might continued. Hero basic training. Today we will be conducting battle training. And to do that, you need these. The wall opened to reveal numbered compartments, each containing a hero costume designed by the students themselves. That changed and meet me at training ground beta, All Might instructed. It is time to step into your hero roles. The locker rooms were chaos as students donned their costumes. Izuku's costume was practical, reinforced clothing in dark green and black, with plenty of pockets for equipment, a utility belt, and lightweight armor plating over vital areas. No cape, no flashy elements, just functional gear designed for someone who would rely on strategy rather than power. When he emerged, Ichako was waiting in her costume, a black and pink skin-tight suit with a helmet. Deku, you look so cool, she said. Very professional. Thanks, you look great too, Izuku replied. That suit really showcases your quirk's mobility advantages. They walked to training ground beta together, where the rest of the class was assembling. The costumes range from practical to outrageous. Bakugo looked like a walking grenade, Iida had full armor with engines, Todoroki's costume was split down the middle like his quirk, and Momo's costume was revealing but functional for her creation quirk. All Might explained the exercise. Two-person teams, one team playing villains holding a weapon in a building, the other team playing heroes trying to recover the weapon or capture the villains. 15 minutes per match, indoor combat simulation. This is not a competition, All Might emphasized. This is training. Learn from each other, think strategically, and remember that real hero work is rarely fair or predictable. Teams were assigned by lottery. Izuku drew Team A with Ichako. Their opponents would be Team D, Bakugo and Iida. Izuku's mind raced. Bakugo was powerful but reckless, driven by emotion and ego. Iida was intelligent but too rule-bound. The building layout favored mobility and strategy over raw power. This was winnable. In the observation room where other students watched on monitors, Izuku huddled with Ochako. "Okay, here is what we are dealing with," Izuku said quietly. "Bakugo is going to come at us hard and fast. He will want to prove he is better than me specifically. That is our advantage. His anger makes him predictable. But his explosions are really powerful," Ochako worried. "How do we handle that?" "We do not fight him head-on," Izuku explained. "We use the environment, split them up, and focus on the objective, not the fight. Iida will stay with the weapon because he is the responsible one. That means we need to get past Bakugo and reach the upper floors." "How?" Ochako asked. Izuku outlined a plan, speaking quickly and clearly. Achako's eyes widened as she understood the strategy, then she grinned. "That is brilliant," she said. "Let us do this." The match began. Izuku and Ochako entered the building cautiously, Izuku's hand on his earpiece communicating quietly. Bakugo came around the corner like a missile, explosions propelling him forward. "Die, Deku," he screamed. But Izuku was already moving, pulling Ochako into a side corridor as the explosion scorched where they had been standing. "Predictable," Izuku muttered. There ran Bakugo giving chase, his explosions getting more erratic and powerful as his frustration grew. Izuku led him on a deliberate path through narrow corridors where big explosions would backfire, around corners that broke line of sight, upstairs that forced Bakugo to slow down. "Stop running and fight me," Bakugo roared. In the observation room, students watched with growing interest. "Midoriya is controlling the engagement completely," Momo observed. "He is using Bakugo's aggression against him." All Might nodded approvingly, his keen eye catching the strategy. On the 4th floor, Izuku found what he was looking for. A room with structural support pillars and a window. 8:54 a.m. Overlooking an interior courtyard. "Ochako, now," he called. Ochako touched the pillars, making them weightless. When Bakugo burst in with a massive explosion, the blast hit the now unsupported ceiling, and debris began falling. Bakugo had to dodge his own attack's consequences. In that moment of distraction, Ochako grabbed Izuku and made them both weightless. They floated up through the hole in the ceiling to the next floor, where Iida was guarding the weapon. Iida was shocked. "How did you get here so fast?" "We did not beat Bakugo," Izuku explained calmly. "We bypassed him entirely. Now, are you going to let us take the weapon, or do we have to work for it?" Iida's competitive spirit flared. "As a hero, I will defend this weapon with everything I have." The fight that followed was brief but intense. Iida's speed was incredible, but Izuku had studied his engine quirk extensively. Engines need air and space. In the confined room, Iida's advantages were reduced. Ochako used her quirk creatively, making debris weightless and using it as projectiles, forcing Iida to dodge. Izuku used grappling techniques he had trained for years, getting close where engines were useless. In 2 minutes, Ochako tagged the weapon, and All Might's voice boomed over the speakers. "Heroes win." In the observation room, the class erupted in discussion. "Midoriya did not throw a single punch but completely controlled the match," someone said. "That was incredible strategy." When both teams returned to the observation room, All Might conducted his review. "Young Midoriya, your analysis of your opponents was exceptional. You identified weaknesses, exploited environmental advantages, and kept your partner informed throughout. Excellent work. Young Bakugo," he continued more seriously, "you have incredible power, but you let emotion control you. A clear head is as important as a strong quirk." Bakugo looked furious but said nothing, glaring at Izuku with pure hatred. The rest of the matches proceeded, each showcasing different quirks and strategies. But Izuku's match had set a standard, proving that intelligence could overcome power. After class, several students approached Izuku. Todoroki studied him quietly. "You are quirkless but you won decisively. Interesting." Amanari clapped him on the back. "Dude, that was so cool. You made Bakugo look like an amateur." But it was the girls who really swarmed him. Ochako was glowing with pride. "We made such a good team, Deku. Their strategic thinking is remarkable," Momo said. "I would like to analyze that match with you later if you have time." "You totally outsmarted everyone," Mina gushed. "Brains over brawn for the win." Even Tsuyu nodded approvingly. "Well fought, Midoriya. You used our quirks perfectly, Ochako." As they walked back to change, Izuku felt satisfaction settling over him. He had proven himself in combat without a quirk, earned respect from his classmates, and strengthened his bonds with his priority targets. But he also noticed the way some students looked at him now. Not just with respect, but with something like awe or attraction. Achako's cheeks had been pink all afternoon. Momo kept finding excuses to stand close to him. Mina was being even more touchy than usual. The seeds were growing faster than expected. That evening, as Izuku rode the train home, he reviewed the day in his mind. Everything was proceeding according to plan. He was becoming essential to his classmates, building trust and loyalty, establishing himself as someone worth following. His phone buzzed with messages. A group chat had been created with him, Achako, Momo, Mina, Tsuyu, and a few others. They were already planning study sessions and weekend activities. Izuku smiled to himself. His web was expanding, threads connecting him to more people every day. Soon he would have a network strong enough to accomplish anything. What those accomplishments would be, even he was not entirely certain yet. But power came first, purpose could follow. For now, he was just Deku, the helpful quirkless boy who made everyone around him better. The perfect mask for whatever lay beneath. Part 3. Weekend Connections. Saturday morning found Izuku at a training gym he had been using since middle school. The owner, and retired hero named Gran Torino, had taken an interest in the quirkless boy who trained with such dedication. The old man was tiny but fierce, his hero career ending due to injury rather than age. "Your footwork is sloppy," Gran Torino barked, watching Izuku work the heavy bag. "You are thinking too much. React, do not calculate." "Easier said than done," Izuku panted, adjusting his stance. "That is your problem, boy," Gran Torino said, zipping around with his jet quirk to appear behind Izuku. "You think strategy can solve everything. But sometimes you just need to trust your body." They sparred for another hour, Izuku taking multiple hits, but learning from each one. Gran Torino was teaching him something valuable, how to act without overthinking, how to let training and instinct take over when analysis would be too slow. After training, Izuku showered and checked his phone. 3 messages waiting. Achako had texted, "Hey Deku, a bunch of us are going to the mall today. Want to come? It will be fun." Momo had sent, "Good morning Midoriya. I was wondering if you had time to review quirk theory notes this weekend. We could meet at a cafe if you prefer somewhere less formal than the library." Mina had messaged Deku. "Mall. Today. Required attendance. Bring your credit card and your fashion opinions." Izuku considered his options. The mall trip would allow him to interact with multiple targets simultaneously, building group dynamics. But one-on-one time with Momo would deepen that individual connection significantly. He decided on a strategic compromise. He texted Momo first, "I would love to meet today. How about we do afternoon study session and I can meet you after I finish some morning errands." To the group chat, he replied, "I can meet you guys at the mall around 2. Looking forward to it." Both responses were positive. Momo suggested a quiet cafe near the mall at 2:30, which would give Izuku time to appear at the mall, circulate, then naturally transition to his study date. The mall was crowded with weekend shoppers and students enjoying their day off. Izuku spotted his classmates near the main fountain. Achako, Mina, Tsuyu, Jiro, Hagakure, the invisible girl whose floating clothes were distinctive, and surprisingly, Momo. So much for the one-on-one time strategy, but Izuku adapted quickly. "Deku," Mina called, waving enthusiastically. "Finally, we can begin the sacred ritual of retail therapy." "I am mostly here to observe," Izuku admitted. "Fashion is not exactly my strong suit." "That is why you have us," Mina declared, linking her arm through his. "We are going to give you a makeover." "Please do not," Izuku laughed. "I am comfortable with my boring style." "Boring is right," Jiro teased, her earphone jack swaying as she walked. "You dress like a librarian." "Librarians are respectable," Izuku defended. They spent the next hour wandering through stores, the girls trying on various outfits and dragging Izuku along for opinions. He discovered that giving genuine thoughtful feedback on their clothing choices earned significant appreciation. When Achako tried on a dress, she asked nervously, "Is this too much? I usually just wear casual stuff." "You look beautiful," Izuku said honestly. "But more importantly, do you feel comfortable? The best outfit is one that makes you feel confident." Achako's face went bright red, but she smiled. "Thanks Deku. That is really sweet." Momo emerged from a changing room in an elegant outfit that probably cost more than Izuku's entire wardrobe. The others complimented her, but Izuku noticed her expression was uncertain. "You do not like it," Izuku observed quietly. Momo looked surprised he noticed. "It is lovely, but it feels very much like something my mother would choose. I am not sure it is me." "Then try something different," Izuku suggested. "Something you would never normally wear. Sometimes stepping out of expectations helps you find your real style." "That is actually quite liberating advice," Momo said thoughtfully. She returned 20 minutes later in a more casual, modern outfit that made her look younger and more relaxed. The smile on her face was genuine. "Thank you Midoriya. I feel much more myself." "You look amazing, Momo," Izuku said warmly. As they continued shopping, Mina pulled Izuku into an accessories store. "Okay, real talk," she said. "Which of these earrings makes me look more cool hero and less cute alien girl?" Izuku examined the options seriously. "Why not both? This pair has an edgy design, but the color complements your skin. Cool and cute are not mutually exclusive." Mina hugged him impulsively. "You get me, Deku. Everyone always puts me in one box, but you see the whole picture." The hug lasted a moment longer than strictly friendly, and Izuku noticed Ochako watching with an expression he could not quite read. Tsuyu, who had been quietly observing all day, finally spoke. "Midoriya, you are very good at reading people. Call me curious, but have you always been this way?" "I think it comes from being quirkless," Izuku explained. "When you cannot rely on power, you learn to understand people, to see what they need, to find ways to help that do not require superhuman abilities." "That is a valuable skill," Tsuyu said. "Hero work is not just fighting villains. It is understanding people, victims and villains alike." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the food court. A villain, some low-level thief with a speed quirk, was trying to escape from security. People were screaming and scattering. Izuku's mind shifted instantly into tactical mode. He assessed the situation in seconds. The villain was heading toward the west exit, where civilians were densest. Security was too slow. Pro-heroes had not arrived yet. Without thinking, Izuku moved. He grabbed a shopping bag from a nearby bench and timed his throw perfectly. The bag caught the villain's feet mid-stride, and the speedster went tumbling. Before the villain could recover, Tsuyu's tongue wrapped around him, and Momo created restraints. The whole thing lasted 15 seconds. Security arrived, thanking them profusely. A few pro-heroes showed up right after, including Kamui Woods, who nodded approvingly. "Good instincts, kids. Fast response, minimal collateral damage. Well done." As they gave statements to the police, Izuku noticed the way the girls were looking at him. Ochako's eyes were shining with admiration. Momo looked impressed and thoughtful. Even Jiro seemed more interested than before. "That was so cool," Mina said excitedly as they finally left the mall. "You did not even hesitate, Deku." "Training kicks in," Izuku said modestly. "Plus, I had 3 incredibly talented heroes with me. I just made the opening." "But you saw the solution immediately," Momo argued. "That is leadership, Midoriya." As the group dispersed to head home, Ochako hung back with Izuku. "Can we talk for a minute?" she asked quietly. "Of course," he replied. They found a quiet bench outside the mall. Ochako seemed nervous, fidgeting with her hands. "Deku, I wanted to tell you something," she began. "This week has been amazing. You have been so helpful and kind, and today at the mall, She took a breath. "I really like spending time with you. Like, more than just as a friend." Izuku felt the moment arrive, the confession he had been carefully building toward. "Ochako," he said gently, taking her hand. "I really like spending time with you too. You're kind, strong, and you make me want to be better. I feel comfortable around you in a way I rarely do with people." "Really?" she asked, hope lighting up her face. "Really?" he confirmed. "Would you maybe want to go on an actual date sometime? Just the 2 of us?" "Yes," Ochako said immediately, then laughed at her enthusiasm. "Sorry, yes, I would really like that." They sat together for a while, holding hands and talking about everything and nothing. When Izuku finally walked Ochako to her train, she hugged him tightly. "Thank you for giving me a chance," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me," Izuku replied, and he almost meant it. As he rode his own train home, Izuku analyzed the day. Ochako was officially his now, or as official as teenage dating got. That secured one major connection. But he had also noticed the way Momo looked at him, the way Mina touched him casually, the way Tsuyu studied him with increasing interest. His web was growing more complex. Managing multiple romantic interests would require even more careful planning. But Izuku had always thrived on complexity. His phone buzzed. Momo had texted, "I am sorry we did not get our study session today. Perhaps tomorrow if you are available. I find our conversations quite stimulating." Izuku smiled at the message. "Tomorrow works perfectly," he replied. "Looking forward to it." Another message, this time from Mina in the group chat. "Best day ever. We should totally make mall trips a regular thing. Plus Deku is officially our good luck charm since we caught a villain." Tsuyu responded, Midoriya's tactical thinking was the key factor. "We should all work on developing similar analytical skills." The messages continued, his classmates bonding over the shared experience. And at the center of it all was Izuku, the helpful, strategic, trustworthy Deku. As he lay in bed that night, Izuku stared at his ceiling and wondered, not for the first time, if he was manipulating them or if they were becoming real connections. The line was blurring, and he was not sure if that was concerning or satisfying. Either way, tomorrow would bring new opportunities, new connections, new threads in his ever-expanding web. And Izuku Midoriya would weave them all perfectly. Sunday morning sunlight filtered through Izuku's bedroom window, illuminating the walls covered with hero posters and analysis notes. He sat at his desk, staring at his locked notebook, the one containing all his psychological profiles and manipulation strategies. His hand hovered over the lock, but he did not open it. Last night's thoughts had been troubling. The line between manipulation and genuine connection was becoming increasingly blurred. When Ichako had confessed her feelings, when Momo thanked him for understanding her, when Mina hugged him with real affection, something in Izuku's chest had tightened in a way he did not entirely understand. He had always viewed relationships as strategic assets, people as variables in a grand equation he was solving. But these girls were becoming more than variables. They were becoming real to him in ways he had not anticipated. His phone buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. A message from Momo appeared on the screen. "Good morning, Midoriya. I hope you slept well. I have been reviewing my notes from this week and realized how much your insights have already improved my approach to hero work. Are we still on for this afternoon? I have found a wonderful cafe that serves excellent tea and has quiet study areas." Izuku typed back quickly, "Good morning, Momo. Yes, absolutely. What time works best for you?" The response came within seconds. "How about 1 o'clock? That gives us most of the afternoon to work." "Perfect. See you then," Izuku confirmed. He set his phone down and finally opened his notebook, flipping to Momo's profile. The pages were filled with observations, behavioral patterns, emotional triggers, and strategic approaches for building connection. But as he read his own notes, they felt clinical, cold, disconnected from the warm, intelligent girl he had been spending time with. Izuku picked up his pen and added a new note at the bottom of her profile. "Reassess approach. Subject showing signs of becoming more than asset. Monitor personal emotional response." His mother called from the kitchen, interrupting his analysis. "Izuku, breakfast is ready. Come eat before it gets cold." Humming, "Mom," he called back, closing and locking the notebook. Over breakfast, Inko chatted excitedly about his first week at UA. She had watched the news coverage of the mall incident yesterday, seeing her son help capture a villain without even having a quirk. Her pride was overwhelming and genuine. "I was so worried when I saw the news," she admitted, her eyes glistening. "But you were so brave and smart. That is my boy." "It was not that dangerous," Izuku deflected. "I had talented classmates with me. Tsuyu and Momo did most of the actual work. But you saw what needed to be done first," Inko insisted. "That is a gift, Izuku. Leadership, strategy, understanding situations quickly. Those are hero qualities too." "Thanks, Mom," Izuku said, squeezing her hand. "Your support means everything to me." After breakfast, Izuku spent the morning training in a nearby park. He ran through combat drills, practiced parkour movements, and worked on his physical conditioning. If he was going to survive in a world of quirks, his body needed to be a precision instrument. As he trained, his mind worked through his current situation. Ichako had confessed feelings and he had reciprocated, establishing their first official romantic connection. That gave him a secure anchor point in Class 1A, someone who would trust him completely and defend him to others. But Momo was equally important, perhaps more so. Her intelligence, her quirk's versatility, and her family connections made her an incredibly valuable long-term asset. Plus, he genuinely enjoyed their intellectual conversations in ways that surprised him. Then there was Mina, whose bubbly personality hid surprising depth and loyalty. Tsuyu, who saw through social games but seemed to accept him anyway. Jiro, who was warming up to him gradually. And he had barely begun building connections with other potential targets. The challenge was managing multiple simultaneous relationships without them conflicting or discovering the full extent of his plans. It required perfect memory, consistent behavior, and careful emotional calibration with each person. Izuku finished his training routine with a series of cool-down stretches. His muscles ached pleasantly, the physical exertion helping clear his mind. He checked the time on his phone. 11:30. Enough time to shower, change, and get to the cafe. As he walked home, his phone buzzed again. This time it was Ichako. "Good morning, Deku. I had the best time yesterday. I am still smiling thinking about it. When did you want to go on that date we talked about? I am free most afternoons this week if you are." Izuku smiled despite himself. Ichako's enthusiasm was infectious, her genuine happiness at their connection creating a warmth in his chest that felt almost foreign. He typed back, "How about Tuesday after school? I know a great place for dinner, nothing too fancy but really good food. Then maybe we could walk around the park." "That sounds perfect. I cannot wait," she responded almost immediately, followed by several happy emojis. Back home, Izuku showered and dressed carefully. For his study session with Momo, he chose smart casual, nice jeans and a button-up shirt that looked put together without being overly formal. First impressions had been made, but maintaining the right image was equally important. The cafe Momo had chosen was in an upscale district, the kind of place with expensive tea selections and quiet, refined atmosphere. Izuku arrived 5 minutes early, a habit that ensured he was never the one waiting. Momo was already there, sitting at a corner table with her study materials spread out. She had dressed casually by her standards, which still meant designer clothes that probably cost more than Izuku's monthly expenses. But her smile when she saw him was genuine and warm. "Midoriya, perfect timing," she greeted. I took the liberty of ordering a pot of green tea for us. I hope that is acceptable. That is perfect, thank you, Izuku said, settling into the seat across from her. The next hour passed in comfortable academic discussion. They reviewed hero law, debated quirk application theories, and analyzed famous historical hero battles. Momo's intelligence was formidable, her mind making connections and drawing conclusions with impressive speed. But Izuku noticed something else too. The way Momo's eyes lit up when discussing complex topics, the genuine smile that appeared when he challenged her thinking in productive ways, the unconscious way she leaned forward when engaged in debate. She was not just intellectually stimulated, she was happy. Their perspective on support versus combat roles is fascinating, Momo said, making notes in her elegant handwriting. Most people assume the frontline fighters are most important, but you are arguing that strategic support can be equally or more valuable. Think about it, Izuku explained, his hands gesturing as he talked. All Might is incredibly powerful, but even he needs rescue heroes, medical support, evacuation coordinators, intelligence analysts. A hero who can coordinate a team effectively might save more lives than the strongest fighter. That is very true, Momo agreed. And it validates your approach as well. You may not have a quirk, but your analytical abilities make you an exceptional coordinator. I hope so, Izuku said. Otherwise I am going to have a very short hero career. Momo reached across the table, her hand covering his. Midoriya, you are going to be an incredible hero. I truly believe that. This week alone you have helped me more than months of private tutoring ever did. Her hand was warm, her touch gentle, and Izuku found himself not wanting to pull away. Momo, you give me too much credit. You are brilliant on your own. I am just helping you see what was already there. You were always so modest, Momo said softly, her dark eyes holding his gaze. It is one of the things I admire about you. The moment stretched between them, intimate and charged with something Izuku had not planned for. Genuine connection, real attraction, emotions that existed outside his careful calculations. He should have pulled back, maintained professional distance, kept the relationship in the friend zone until he had secured other connections. That was the strategic move. Instead, he squeezed her hand gently. I admire a lot of things about you too, Momo. Your intelligence, your determination, the way you push yourself to improve. You are remarkable. Momo's cheeks colored slightly, a faint blush that made her look younger and more vulnerable. Thank you, she whispered. That means more coming from you than you might realize. They returned to studying, but the atmosphere had shifted. Their conversation flowed more easily, laughter came more naturally, and the space between them felt charged with potential. As the afternoon wore on, they eventually packed up their materials. The cafe was closing soon, and they had covered everything they had planned to review. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, casting golden light across the city. Momo hesitated before saying goodbye. Midoriya, would you like to walk for a bit? She asked. I find I am not quite ready for the day to end. I would like that, Izuku agreed. They walked through a nearby park, talking about everything and nothing. Momo shared stories about her childhood, the pressure of living up to family expectations, the loneliness of being held to impossible standards. Izuku listened attentively, offering insights and understanding that clearly resonated with her. You make me feel normal, Momo admitted as they sat on a bench overlooking a small pond. Not the Aoi Rozu heiress, not the girl with the creation quirk, just Momo. Do you know how rare that is? I think I understand, Izuku said carefully. Being quirkless, I have always been defined by what I lack rather than who I am. It is exhausting being reduced to a single characteristic. Exactly, Momo said emphatically. You understand that in a way most people never could. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and Izuku found himself wrapping an arm around her. It was comfortable, natural, and terrifyingly real. They sat like that for a long time, watching the sunset over the water, neither speaking, but both feeling the connection deepening between them. When Momo finally pulled away, her expression was conflicted. Midoriya, I need to be honest about something. I saw you with Achako yesterday. The way she looked at you, the way you held her hand. Are you two together? Izuku's mind raced. This was the moment of truth, where his web could either strengthen or collapse. He chose honesty, or at least his version of it. Achako and I have developed feelings for each other, he admitted. But I would be lying if I said you were not important to me too, Momo. These past few days, getting to know you, talking with you, it has meant a lot to me. Momo was quiet for a moment, processing. So what does that mean? She asked carefully. Honestly, I do not know, Izuku said, allowing genuine uncertainty into his voice. I care about both of you. I know that is complicated and probably unfair. If you want me to step back, I will understand completely. Momo looked at him with those intelligent, searching eyes. Are you planning to pursue both of us romantically? I think that depends on what you are both comfortable with, Izuku replied. I am not trying to deceive anyone or play games. But yes, I have feelings for both of you, for different reasons. That is highly unusual, Momo said slowly. Most relationships follow more traditional structures. They do, Izuku agreed. But most heroes are not quirkless either. I have never fit into traditional structures. If that is a problem, I completely understand. Momo stood, pacing slightly as she thought. Her analytical mind was clearly working through the implications, the social dynamics, the emotional variables. Finally, she turned back to him. I need time to think about this, Midoriya. But I want you to know that I value what we have, whatever it becomes. You have been more supportive and understanding than anyone in my life. That is not something I am ready to give up. I am not going anywhere, Izuku promised. Take all the time you need. Momo smiled, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. Thank you for being honest. That matters to me more than you might realize. They parted ways at the train station, but before Momo boarded, she turned back and kissed Izuku's cheek quickly. For luck, she said with a slight blush, then disappeared into the train. Izuku stood on the platform, his hand touching where she had kissed him, his mind spinning with the implications. His plan was working, but it was also spiraling into territory he had not fully prepared for. Real emotions, genuine connections, feelings that existed beyond strategic value. As he rode his own train home, Izuku pulled out his phone and stared at his notes app. He began typing. Observation. Relationships becoming more complex than initial projections. Emotional investment increasing beyond strategic parameters. Reassessment required. Question. At what point does manipulation become genuine connection? And does the distinction matter if the outcome is the same? He saved the note and put his phone away, staring out the window at the passing city lights. Part 2. Monday morning complications. Monday morning brought rain, heavy drops that drummed against UA's windows and turned the campus into a gray, misty landscape. Izuku arrived early as usual, shaking water from his umbrella in the entranceway. The weekend had left him with much to consider. Two romantic connections now existed, Achako openly and enthusiastically, Momo cautiously but genuinely. Managing both required care, honesty, and clear communication. The fact that he was actually trying to be honest rather than simply manipulative was itself a shift in his approach. Class 1A was already half full when he arrived. Achako waved enthusiastically from her seat, her smile bright enough to rival the sun that was hiding behind storm clouds. Momo glanced up from her notes, offered a small smile, then returned to reading with a slight blush coloring her cheeks. Deku, Achako called, bouncing over to him. Good morning. Did you have a good rest of your weekend? I did, thanks, Izuku replied warmly. How about you? Great. I helped my mom with some shopping yesterday and told her about our upcoming date. She was so excited she almost cried, Achako laughed. She said it is about time I focused on something other than hero training. Their conversation was interrupted by Mina practically tackled Izuku with a hug from behind. Morning, Deku. Ready for another exciting week of learning and hero stuff? As ready as I will ever be, Izuku said, gently extracting himself from Mina's enthusiastic embrace. Tsuyu approached more calmly, her large eyes observant as always. Good morning, Midoriya. Interesting weekend. Productive, Izuku replied, meeting her gaze steadily. Lots of studying and reflection. Tsuyu said, her expression suggesting she heard the words he was not saying. Call me observant, but something seems different about you. Before Izuku could respond, Aizawa shuffled into the classroom in his sleeping bag, somehow looking even more exhausted than usual. Everyone take your seats. We have a lot to cover today. The morning classes passed in their usual blur of hero law, quirk ethics, and academic subjects. But Izuku noticed the shifting dynamics in the classroom. Achako kept glancing at him with barely contained happiness. Momo was more reserved, but her eyes found him frequently during lessons. Mina had become increasingly touchy, finding excuses to grab his arm or lean against him. And he was not the only one noticing. During a break between classes, Kirishima pulled Izuku aside with a huge grin. Dude, what is your secret? He asked in a loud whisper. Half the girls in class are into you and you do not even have a quirk. That is so manly. I do not have a secret, Izuku deflected. I just try to be a good friend and listen when people talk. Yeah, but like, really listen, Kirishima continued. Mina was talking yesterday about how you actually remember stuff she says and ask follow-up questions. Most guys just tune out. You're like the anti-Mineta. Speaking of which, the small purple-haired boy was indeed glaring at Izuku with obvious jealousy from across the room. His crush on virtually every female classmate made him view Izuku as unwanted competition. Lunch period brought new complications. Izuku found himself at a table with Achako, Momo, Mina, Tsuyu, Jiro, and Hagakure. The all-female group plus him was drawing attention from other students. So Deku, Mina said with a mischievous grin, rumor has it you are quite the ladies' man now. What? No, Izuku protested. I am just friends with everyone. Friends who go on dates, Mina teased, glancing at Achako who turned bright red. We are going to dinner tomorrow, Achako admitted shyly. As a date. Official date. That is so cute, Hagakure squealed, her floating uniform bouncing excitedly. Young love blooming at UA. Hiro rolled her eyes but smiled. As long as you do not get all gross and couple Y in class. Some of us are trying to focus on hero training. We will keep the romance to appropriate times and places, Izuku assured her with a laugh. But his eyes met Momo's across the table and he saw the complex emotions there. She knew about his date with Achako, had been told honestly, but seeing it discussed so openly was clearly difficult for her. After lunch, Izuku found Momo in the hallway. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I am fine, Momo replied, then sighed. No, that is not entirely true. This is more complicated than I anticipated. Seeing you with Achako, knowing you have plans together, it is harder than I expected. I am sorry, Izuku said genuinely. I never wanted to hurt you. You are not hurting me, Momo clarified. You have been nothing but honest. I am just navigating unfamiliar emotional territory. Give me time to process this properly. Take all the time you need, Izuku assured her. Our friendship matters regardless of anything else. Momo smiled, some tension easing. Thank you Midoriya. Your patience means a great deal. The afternoon brought hero training with all might, this time focused on rescue scenarios. The class was divided into teams and given complex situations involving trapped civilians, structural collapses, and environmental hazards. Izuku found himself teamed with Todoroki, Iida, and surprisingly, a girl he had not interacted with much yet. Toru Hagakure, the invisible girl whose cheerful personality contrasted sharply with Todoroki's cold demeanor. The scenario was challenging. A building collapse simulation with mannequins representing civilians trapped at various levels, some injured, some in immediate danger, all requiring quick assessment and strategic rescue. Todoroki wanted to simply ice everything stable and extract civilians by force. Iida suggested a methodical floor-by-floor sweep. Hagakure was enthusiastic but unsure how her invisibility would help. Izuku analyzed the situation in seconds. Todoroki, your ice can stabilize the structure, but we need to be surgical about it. Too much weight and we cause secondary collapses. Iida, your speed makes you perfect for extraction once we locate everyone. Hagakure, you are our scout. You can move through unstable areas without being seen by potential villains and without adding weight to compromised structures. The plan came together beautifully. Hagakure scouted and reported positions. Todoroki created precise eye supports where Izuku indicated. Iida extracted civilians at superhuman speed. And Izuku coordinated everything, calling out priorities and adjusting strategy in real time. They finished with the second best time in the class, behind only a team led by Bakugo, who had simply exploded through every obstacle with no regard for strategy. Excellent work, Team C, All Might announced. Young Midoriya's coordination and young Todoroki's quirk control were exceptional. This is how professional hero teams operate. After class, Todoroki approached Izuku, his heterochromatic eyes studying him intently. You are strategically gifted, he said bluntly. Why waste that on hero work when you could be a consultant or analyst? Because heroes save lives directly, Izuku replied. Strategy from an office is valuable, but I want to be there, in the field, making a difference in real time. Even without a quirk, Todoroki observed. That is either brave or foolish. Maybe both, Izuku admitted with a slight smile. Todoroki's expression softened almost imperceptibly. I respect that. You have talent most people overlook because they only see quirks. As Todoroki walked away, Izuku noticed Momo watching the interaction. When their eyes met, she smiled and gave him a subtle thumbs up. The rest of the day passed quickly. By the time the final bell rang, Izuku felt mentally exhausted from managing social dynamics, maintaining his image, and actually focusing on his studies. He was packing his bag when Achako approached, practically glowing with excitement. Tomorrow, she said. I cannot stop thinking about our date. Is it silly that I am already nervous? Not silly at all, Izuku assured her. I am nervous too. Really? But you always seem so confident. Only on the outside, Izuku admitted. Inside I am usually calculating 50 different things and hoping I do not mess them up. Achako laughed, then impulsively hugged him. You are going to be great tomorrow. And even if you are not, I will still have fun because I will be with you. As he walked home that evening, Izuku found himself genuinely looking forward to tomorrow. Not because it advanced his plans, but because he actually wanted to spend time with Achako. She was sweet, genuine, and made him feel things he usually kept locked away. His phone buzzed. A message from a number he did not recognize. Hey Midoriya. This is Mei Hatsune from the support course. I heard you are the quirkless genius everyone is talking about. I have some babies, equipment I mean, that might interest you. Want to check out the development studio sometime? Izuku stared at the message with interest. Mei Hatsune was famous in UA, a support course prodigy with incredible engineering skills and absolutely no sense of personal space. Meeting her could open new possibilities. He typed back, "I would love to. When works for you?" The response came immediately. "Tomorrow lunch. Development Studio 3. Bring your brain and your willingness to test potentially dangerous equipment." Izuku smiled. His web was expanding in new directions, and he had no idea where this particular thread might lead. Part 3. Tuesday, the first date. Tuesday morning arrived with clearer skies, the rain from yesterday having washed the city clean. Izuku woke early, his mind already running through the day ahead. Classes in the morning, lunch meeting with Mei Hatsune, then his date with Ichako in the evening. He dressed carefully for school, knowing that Ichako would notice and appreciate the effort. His usual uniform but with extra attention to looking neat and put together. His mother noticed at breakfast. "You look nice today, Izuku. Something special happening?" "I have a date after school," he admitted. "With Ichako, a girl from my class." Inko's face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Oh my goodness. My baby's first real date." She immediately began fussing, offering advice, asking questions, and generally being an enthusiastic and slightly embarrassing mom. "Mom, it is just dinner," Izuku laughed, gently deflecting her excessive excitement. "Just dinner," she repeated. "Izuku, this is a big deal. You be a gentleman, listen when she talks, and treat her with respect." "I will, Mom. I promise." At UA, the morning classes seemed to drag endlessly. Izuku found it difficult to focus, his mind wandering to the evening ahead. He caught Ichako watching him several times, her expression showing she was equally distracted. During a break, Momo approached him. "Good luck on your date tonight," she said quietly. "Ichako is lucky to have someone who pays attention to her the way you do." "Thank you, Momo," Izuku replied, searching her face for signs of hurt or resentment. "How are you doing with everything?" "Better," she admitted. "I have been thinking a lot about our conversation. I am not ready to make any decisions yet, but I appreciate your honesty. That is rare and valuable." When lunch arrived, Izuku excused himself from his usual group and headed to Development Studio 3. The support course area was a chaotic wonderland of machinery, half-built inventions, and students covered in grease and determination. Mei Hatsune was easy to spot. Pink hair and dreadlocks, goggles perched on her head, and an enormous smile as she worked on something that looked vaguely explosive. "Midoriya," she called out when she spotted him. "Perfect timing. I just finished my latest baby." She rushed over, grabbing his hand and pulling him toward her workstation. Her complete disregard for personal space was immediately apparent as she pressed against him to show him blueprints. "See, I heard you do not have a quirk, but you are crazy smart tactically," Mei explained rapidly. "So I thought, what if we gave you equipment that enhances analysis and coordination? I have been working on these." She pulled out what looked like advanced contact lenses. Real-time threat assessment display. Camera feeds, structural analysis, weak point identification, all processed and projected directly to your vision. "That is incredible," Izuku said, genuinely impressed. "But would not that much information be overwhelming?" "Not with my specialized AI filter," Mei grinned. "It only shows you what is relevant based on your focus. Plus I added a friend tagging system so you can coordinate team movements." "Can I test them?" "Absolutely." Mei practically shoved the lenses at him. The next 30 minutes were some of the most interesting of Izuku's life. Mei had created dozens of support items, each more innovative than the last. Grappling gloves, reinforced clothing that distributed impact, communication earpieces with extended range, even a jacket with built-in first aid supplies. "You're brilliant," Izuku told her honestly. "These could change how quirkless heroes operate." Mei beamed at the praise. "Most people just want flashy quirk enhancements. But you get it. Equipment can be just as powerful as any quirk if designed right." They talked for the rest of lunch period, Mei showing off inventions, while Izuku provided tactical feedback on applications and improvements. By the end, they had exchanged numbers and agreed to ongoing collaboration. "You are my new favorite test subject," Mei declared. "Most people are too scared to try my babies, but you actually understand them." As Izuku returned to class, he realized Mei represented a completely different kind of connection. Not romantic, but incredibly valuable. Her genius combined with his strategy could create something genuinely revolutionary. The afternoon classes finally ended and Izuku found himself more nervous than he expected. This was his first real date, and despite all his social manipulation skills, genuine romantic interaction was unfamiliar territory. He met Ichako at the school gates. She had changed from her uniform into a cute casual dress, her hair styled differently, and wearing just a touch of makeup. The effort she had put in was obvious and touching. "Wow," Izuku said, momentarily at a loss for words. "You look beautiful, Ichako." Her face went bright red. "Thanks Deku. You look really nice too." They took the train together, sitting close and talking easily about their day. Ichako told him about a rescue training exercise where she had successfully saved all Harem civilians. Izuku shared about his meeting with Mei and the support equipment possibilities. The restaurant Izuku had chosen was modest but highly rated, a small place specializing in katsudon and other comfort foods. Nothing fancy enough to make Ichako uncomfortable about money, but nice enough to feel special. Over dinner, their conversation flowed naturally. Ichako talked about her parents, her motivation to become a hero, so she could support them financially. Izuku shared about growing up quirkless, the bullying, the determination to prove everyone wrong. "You are really brave, you know," Ichako said softly. "I complain about not having money, but at least I have a quirk. You started with nothing and still made it to UA. That is amazing." "You are brave too," Izuku countered. "You are working to support your whole family while also trying to become a hero. That is a massive burden for someone our age." "I never thought of it as brave, just necessary," Ichako admitted. "That is exactly what makes it brave," Izuku said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Brave is not the absence of fear or difficulty. It is pushing forward despite those things." Ichako squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with emotion. "How do you always know the perfect thing to say?" "I pay attention," Izuku replied simply. "And you are worth paying attention to." After dinner, they walked through a nearby park as the sun began to set. The weather was perfect, mild and clear, with cherry blossom trees beginning to bloom. "This has been perfect," Ichako said, leaning against Izuku as they walked. "I was so nervous, but being with you just feels natural." "I feel the same way," Izuku admitted. "You make me want to be genuine instead of strategic." "What do you mean?" Ichako asked curiously. Izuku considered how much truth to share. "I have spent so long analyzing people, trying to figure out the right thing to say or do. But with you, I find myself just being honest. It is refreshing and terrifying at the same time." "I like honest Deku," Ichako said. "You do not have to perform for me." They found a bench overlooking a small pond, watching ducks paddle lazily across the water. Ichako rested her head on Izuku's shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her comfortably. "Deku, can I ask you something?" Ichako said after a comfortable silence. "Anything? Do you have feelings for anyone else?" she asked quietly. "I am not accusing you, I just want to know where I stand." Izuku's heart rate increased. This was the moment of truth, where honesty and strategy would have to align perfectly. "Yes," he admitted. "I have developed feelings for Momo too. I told her about you, and I am telling you about her because I do not want secrets between us." Ichako pulled back slightly to look at him. "So what does that mean for us?" "It means I care about both of you," Izuku said carefully. "I know that is unconventional and maybe unfair. If you want this to be exclusive, I will respect that completely. But I also want to be honest about where my feelings are." Ichako was quiet for a long moment, processing. "This is weird," she finally said. "I should probably be upset or jealous. But you are being so honest about it that I mostly just feel confused." "I am sorry for the confusion," Izuku said. "That was never my intention." "No, I believe that," Ichako replied. "You have never lied to me, and I appreciate that more than you know. Can I think about this? Figure out how I feel?" "Of course," Izuku assured her. "Take all the time you need. Nothing changes between us unless you decide it should." Ichako nodded, then surprised him by kissing his cheek. "Thank you for being honest. That means a lot." They sat together for another hour, talking about lighter topics and enjoying each other's company. By the time Izuku walked Ichako to her train, the atmosphere had shifted from uncertain to comfortable again. "I had a really great time tonight," Ichako said at the station. "Even with the complicated feelings talk. You are someone special, Deku." "So are you, Ichako," Izuku replied, meaning it. She hugged him tightly, then pulled back with a determined expression. "I am not giving up on this, on us. I just need to figure out how I feel about sharing you." "That is fair, right?" "Completely fair," Izuku agreed. As Ichako's train pulled away, she waved enthusiastically through the window, her smile bright despite the complexity they were navigating. Izuku rode his own train home, his mind processing the evening. The date had been genuinely enjoyable, the conversation real, the connection authentic. And his honesty about Momo, while risky, had been the right call. Ichako deserved truth, even when it was complicated. His phone buzzed with a message. Momo had texted. "I hope your date went well. Ichako is fortunate to have someone who treats her with such consideration." Izuku replied, "It was wonderful, thank you. How was your evening?" "Productive. I have been studying advanced chemistry for my Quirk applications. Also processing complex emotions, but that is less scientific and more frustrating." Izuku smiled at her message. "If you want to talk about the complex emotions, I am here. No pressure, just offering." Her response took a few minutes. "I may take you up on that soon." For now, I am trying to determine if what I feel is genuine attraction or simply appreciation for intellectual stimulation. It is surprisingly difficult to differentiate. In my experience, if you are having trouble telling the difference, it is probably both, Izuku typed back. That is simultaneously helpful and concerning. Good night, Midoriya. Sleep well. You too, Momo. As Izuku lay in bed that night, he stared at his ceiling and reflected on how much had changed in just 2 weeks. He had come to UA with plans to manipulate his way to success, to build a network of connections he could leverage for power and position. Instead, he found himself genuinely caring about the people in his web. Achako's sweetness, Momo's intelligence, Mina's energy, Tsuyu's honesty, even Mei's chaotic brilliance. They were becoming real to him in ways he had not anticipated. The question he could not answer was whether this made him more dangerous or less. Was genuine connection a weakness to be eliminated or a strength to be embraced? Izuku did not know. But he was beginning to suspect that finding the answer would define not just his relationships, but the kind of hero or villain he would ultimately become. Part 4. Wednesday expanding horizons. Wednesday morning brought unexpected developments. As Izuku entered Class 1A, he immediately noticed the unusual atmosphere. Students were clustered in excited groups, and Aizawa was already at the front of the room looking even more tired than usual. Settle down, the teacher said in his monotone voice. We have a special announcement this morning. The door opened, and in walked a tall, beautiful girl with long periwinkle hair and a bright, energetic smile. She wore a UA uniform, but clearly was not from their class. 9:05 a.m. Nijire Hado, Aizawa introduced. She is a third-year student and one of UA's big three, the top 3 students in the entire school. She will be working with some of you on a special project over the next few weeks. Hi everyone, Nijire said with infectious enthusiasm. I am so excited to meet you all. The first-year students this year are supposed to be especially talented. Her eyes scanned the room, cataloging each student with obvious interest. When her gaze landed on Izuku, she paused, her head tilting curiously. Oh, you are the quirkless strategist everyone is talking about, she said, walking directly over to his desk. Midoriya, right. I have heard so many interesting things about you. How do you compensate for not having a quirk? What kind of training do you do? Do you ever feel scared in combat situations? Have you considered support equipment? What is your favorite hero? The rapid-fire questions came without pause, and Izuku found himself both overwhelmed and amused. Strategic planning, physical conditioning, sometimes yes, currently exploring options with support course, and All Might, he answered in order, matching her pace. Nijire's smile widened. You are quick. I like you. We should totally hang out and talk more. I have about a million more questions. Aizawa cleared his throat pointedly. Hado, you are here to observe teaching methods, not interrogate first-year students. Right, sorry sensei, Nijire said cheerfully, but she gave Izuku a wink before returning to the front of the class. Throughout the morning lessons, Izuku felt Nijire's eyes on him periodically. She seemed genuinely fascinated, taking notes and watching how he interacted with other students. During a break, Mina leaned over. Dude, one of the big 3 is totally into you. That is so wild. She is probably just curious about the quirkless student, Izuku deflected. Yeah, curious in a very specific way, Mina teased. You are like a magnet for strong women. Ichako, sitting nearby, had a complicated expression. She had been processing their conversation from yesterday, and seeing another girl show interest in Izuku was clearly stirring emotions. At lunch, Nijire made her move. She bounded over to the table where Izuku sat with his usual group. Mind if I join you guys? She asked, already pulling up a chair next to Izuku. I want to learn all about the famous Class 1A. Of course, Momo said politely, though her eyes narrowed slightly at how close Nijire sat to Izuku. So Midoriya, Nijire continued, why did you want to become a hero? Most quirkless people do not even try for UA. What makes you different? I had a dream, and I was too stubborn to let reality stop me, Izuku replied. Plus, I figured if I could not compete on power, I would compete on everything else. Strategy, tactics, leadership, analysis. That is so inspiring, Nijire gushed. You know, my quirk is wave motion, I can convert vitality into energy waves. But even with a strong quirk, hero work is about so much more. You seem to really get that. The table dynamic was fascinating. Ichako was watching quietly, her expression thoughtful. Momo was polite but clearly evaluating this new variable. Mina looked entertained by the whole situation. Tsuyu observed with her usual calm attention. Nijire, seemingly oblivious to the undercurrents, continued chattering happily. She asked everyone about their quirks, their training, their goals. But her attention kept returning to Izuku, her questions for him more numerous and personal. Have you ever had a girlfriend? She asked suddenly. The table went silent. Every girl present turned to look at Izuku with varying expressions of interest. That is kind of personal, Izuku said carefully. Oh, sorry, I tend to ask whatever pops into my head, Nijire apologized cheerfully. But you do not have to answer if you do not want to. It is fine, Izuku said. And to answer honestly, I have recently started exploring romantic connections. It is new territory for me. Interesting, Nijire said, her smile knowing. Well, if you ever want dating advice from an older student, I am happy to help. I have tons of experience. After lunch, Tsuyu pulled Izuku aside. Call me observant, but you are collecting admirers at an impressive rate. Is that intentional? Not entirely, Izuku admitted. I am just trying to make connections, and apparently that is being interpreted romantically more often than I expected. Are you complaining? Tsuyu asked with the slightest hint of amusement. No, just surprised, Izuku replied. And trying to navigate it all honestly without hurting anyone. That is a good approach, Tsuyu said. Just remember that honesty includes being clear about your intentions. The more girls who get interested, the more complicated this will become. I am starting to realize that, Izuku agreed. The afternoon brought combat training with all might. Today's exercise was one-on-one sparring matches, designed to push students to understand their quirk's limits. Izuku was paired against Tokoyami, whose dark shadow quirk was powerful, but had weaknesses to light. The match was strategic rather than physical, Izuku using the training ground's lighting to his advantage, forcing dark shadow into positions where the light limited its effectiveness. He lost, but he made Tokoyami work for it, and more importantly, he demonstrated tactical thinking that impressed both All Might and his classmates. Young Midoriya, All Might said after the match, your ability to analyze and adapt mid-combat is exceptional. You lost this match, but you forced your opponent to think and adjust constantly. That is a valuable skill. After training, as students were changing, Nijire appeared again. She had apparently been watching the matches. That was really cool, Midoriya, she said. You almost had him. Your tactical mind is seriously impressive. Thanks, Izuku replied, pulling on his shirt. You are pretty amazing yourself from what I have heard. One of the big three is no small achievement. Nijire beamed at the compliment. Hey, I was wondering if you want to train together sometime. I could use someone who thinks strategically to help me develop new applications for my quirk. I would like that, Izuku agreed. Great. Here, give me your number, Nijire said, pulling out her phone. As they exchanged contact information, Izuku noticed Achako watching from across the locker area. Her expression was conflicted, processing emotion she was clearly still working through. After school, Izuku found Achako waiting for him at the gate. Can we talk? She asked quietly. Of course, Izuku replied. They walked to a nearby park, finding privacy under a large tree. Achako seemed to be gathering her thoughts, and Izuku waited patiently. I have been thinking about what you told me, she finally said. About having feelings for Momo too. And I realized something about myself. What is that? Izuku asked gently. I have never been the jealous type, Achako explained. My parents always taught me that love is not about possession, it is about caring for someone's happiness. And honestly, seeing you with Momo, seeing how you both light up when talking about strategy and hero theory, it is kind of beautiful. So what are you saying? Izuku asked, hope and caution mixing in his voice. I am saying I do not want to make you choose, Achako said. If Momo makes you happy, and I make you happy, then maybe there is a way for this to work. I do not know what that looks like exactly, but I am willing to try if you are. Izuku felt something loosen in his chest, relief flooding through him. You're incredible, you know that. I am practical, Achako corrected with a small smile. And I like you enough to try something unconventional. But I have conditions. Name them, Izuku said immediately. Complete honesty, always, Achako stated firmly. No secrets, no hiding things. If you develop feelings for someone else, you tell me and whoever else is involved. We all need to consent and communicate. Agreed, Izuku said without hesitation. And you have to make time for each of us individually, Achako continued. I do not want to always be part of a group. I want dates, conversations, moments that are just us. Absolutely, Izuku promised. And finally, Achako said, her cheeks coloring, if this gets too hard or hurts too much, I reserve the right to change my mind. No guilt, no pressure, just honest communication about what I need. That is completely fair, Izuku agreed. Achako, you are being incredibly mature and understanding about something most people would find impossible. Maybe I am crazy, Achako laughed. But I would rather be crazy and happy than traditional and without you. They hugged, and this time when Achako kissed him, it was on the lips, soft and sweet and full of promise. Now you need to have a similar conversation with Momo, Achako said when they pulled apart. If we are doing this, everyone needs to be on the same page. You are right, Izuku agreed. I will talk to her soon. As the sun set and they parted ways, Izuku felt a strange mixture of emotions. Relief that Ichako was willing to try, anxiety about the complexity ahead, and underneath it all, a genuine happiness that surprised him. He was supposed to be manipulating these relationships for strategic advantage. Instead, he found himself genuinely caring about these girls' feelings and happiness. Maybe that was growth. Or maybe it was the most dangerous development of all. Thursday morning arrived with a weight on Izuku's shoulders. He had promised Ichako he would talk to Momo to ensure everyone involved in this increasingly complex situation understood and consented to what was happening. The conversation needed to happen today. He arrived at UA even earlier than usual, hoping to catch Momo before other students filled the classroom. Sure enough, she was already there, seated at her desk with several textbooks open, her elegant handwriting filling a notebook with detailed notes. "Good morning, Momo," Izuku said softly, not wanting to startle her. She looked up, and her smile was genuine but cautious. "Good morning, Midoriya. You are here early today. I was hoping we could talk," he said. "Privately, if possible." Momo's expression became more guarded, but she nodded. "Of course. The library should be empty at this hour." They walked through the quiet hallways together, neither speaking, the weight of the upcoming conversation hanging between them. The library was indeed deserted, early morning light filtering through tall windows and casting long shadows across empty tables. They settled into a private study room, the kind with glass walls, but enough distance from the main area to ensure their conversation would not be overheard. "Momo," Izuku began, "I need to talk to you about something important. About us and Ichako, and where things stand." "I have been expecting this conversation," Momo said calmly, though her hands betrayed her nervousness by fidgeting with her pencil. "Please, be honest with me." Izuku took a breath and chose his words carefully. "Ichako and I talked yesterday. I told her about my feelings for you, and we discussed what that means for our relationship." "And what conclusion did you reach?" Momo asked, her voice steady but her eyes revealing anxiety. "She is willing to try something unconventional," Izuku explained. "She does not want me to choose between you. She said if we both make me happy, she is open to finding a way to make it work." Momo was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Her analytical mind was clearly working through implications, scenarios, and emotional variables. "That is remarkably mature of her," Momo finally said. "Most people would demand exclusivity." "She is pretty incredible," Izuku agreed. "But this only works if you are comfortable with it too, Momo. I am not asking you to accept something you do not want. I am asking how you feel about all of this." Momo stood and walked to the window, looking out at the campus grounds. The morning sun highlighted her profile, and Izuku could see the conflict playing across her features. "In my family, relationships are contracts," Momo said quietly. "Strategic alliances, beneficial arrangements, proper social connections. Love is secondary to duty and expectation. The idea of choosing someone based purely on feelings, let alone sharing that person with others, is completely foreign to everything I was raised to believe." "Is that a no?" Izuku asked gently. "No," Momo turned back to face him. "It is me saying that what you are proposing terrifies me because it goes against every social rule I have been taught. But it also excites me because it is genuine, honest, and based on actual feelings rather than obligation." "So what do you want, Momo?" Izuku pressed. "Not what your family would want, not what society expects. What do you want?" Momo met his eyes, and hers were shining with unshed tears. "I want to spend time with you. I want our intellectual conversations and the way you make me feel understood. I want to explore these feelings without the pressure of traditional relationship structures that have never made sense to me anyway." "Then let's do that," Izuku said, standing and moving closer to her. "No pressure, no expectations beyond honesty and communication. We figure this out together." "What about Ichako?" Momo asked. "Will she resent me?" "I do not think so," Izuku replied. "But that is something you two should talk about directly. This works better if everyone communicates openly, not just through me." "That is logical," Momo agreed. "And terrifying. I have never been good at emotional conversations." "Neither have I," Izuku admitted. "But we are learning together." Momo smiled, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "You are very good at making complicated things seem manageable, Midoriya." Izuku corrected gently. "If we are doing this, you should probably call me by my first name." "Izuku," Momo tested the name, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "That feels rather intimate." "That is kind of the point," Izuku said with a small smile. Before either could say more, Momo stepped forward and kissed him. It was different from Ichako's kiss, less spontaneous but more deliberate, carrying the weight of a decision made after careful consideration. When they pulled apart, Momo looked surprised at her own boldness. "I have been wanting to do that since our study session on Sunday." "I am glad you did," Izuku replied honestly. They returned to the classroom just as other students began arriving. Achako was one of the first, and when she saw Izuku and Momo enter together, she immediately understood that the conversation had happened. During the morning break, Achako approached Momo directly while Izuku watched from a careful distance. "Yaoi Rozu, can we talk?" Achako asked, her voice friendly but nervous. "Of course, Uraraka," Momo replied with equal nervousness. They moved to a corner of the classroom, and Izuku saw them begin an intense but quiet conversation. Both girls were expressive, their body language gradually shifting from tense to more relaxed as they talked. After 10 minutes, they both looked over at Izuku simultaneously. Achako gestured for him to join them. "So we talked," Achako said when Izuku arrived. "And we have decided that we are willing to try this, together. With ground rules," Momo added. "Many ground rules." "I am listening," Izuku said. "First, complete transparency," Achako stated. "Anything involving any of us gets discussed openly. Second," Momo continued, "equal consideration. Neither of us gets priority by default. Time and attention should be balanced. Third," Achako said, "if either of us becomes uncomfortable at any point, we can call a meeting to discuss and adjust. No one's feelings get dismissed. Fourth," Momo added, "if you develop feelings for anyone else, you tell us immediately before acting on them. We all consent or it does not happen. And finally," Achako finished, "we support each other. This is weird and complicated, so Yaoi Rozu and I are going to be friends and communicate directly, not just through you." "Those are all completely reasonable," Izuku agreed. "Anything else?" "Yes," Momo said, her expression becoming more serious. "Why are you doing this, Izuku? What do you want from these relationships?" That was the question Izuku had been asking himself for days. The honest answer was complex, layered with both strategic thinking and genuine emotion. Initially, he admitted, choosing truth over comfortable lies, "I wanted connections at UA. People I could rely on, who would trust me despite not having a quirk." That was strategic thinking. Both girls' expressions became guarded, waiting for the rest. "But then I got to know you both," Izuku continued. "Achako, your kindness and determination inspire me. You make me want to be genuine instead of calculated. Momo, your intelligence challenges me and makes me think deeper. You both make me feel things I have spent years suppressing." "What kind of things?" Achako asked quietly. "Connection," Izuku said. "Real connection, not just strategic alliances. The desire to make you happy not because it benefits me, but because your happiness matters to me. That scares me more than any villain could." "Why does it scare you?" Momo asked perceptively. "Because I have built my entire identity around being strategic and controlled," Izuku explained. "Genuine emotions are unpredictable. They make you vulnerable. And I have spent years avoiding vulnerability." "But you are choosing to be vulnerable now," Achako observed. "With us." "Yes," Izuku confirmed. "Because I think you are both worth the risk." The three of them stood in a small circle, the weight of the conversation settling over them. This was uncharted territory for all of them, a relationship structure none had experienced or even heard of outside of fiction. "So we are really doing this," Achako said, looking between Izuku and Momo. "The three of us, together but also individually, figuring it out as we go." "It appears so," Momo agreed. "This is either incredibly mature or completely insane." "Possibly both," Izuku said with a slight smile. Achako laughed, breaking the tension. "Okay then. Team Complicated Feelings is officially formed." "That is a terrible team name," Momo said, but she was smiling too. As they returned to their seats for the next class, Izuku felt a strange sense of relief mixed with anxiety. The foundation was laid, the agreements made, the communication established. Now came the hard part, actually making it work. Part 2. Thursday afternoon. New complications. The afternoon brought hero training with a twist. Aizawa announced they would be doing joint training with Class 1B, UA's other hero course class. The competitive tension in the room immediately spiked. Class 1B filed into the training ground, led by their teacher Vlad King. Among them was a girl with orange hair and a side ponytail, who immediately caught Izuku's attention, not romantically, but because she was staring at him with obvious interest. "That is Itsuka Kendo," Momo whispered to Izuku. "She is Class 1B's representative and extremely capable. Her quirk is Big Fist." The training exercise was team-based, 5 against 5 capture the flag scenarios with complex terrain and multiple objectives. Aizawa and Vlad King deliberately mixed the classes to force students to work with unfamiliar teammates. Izuku found himself on a team with Todoroki, Jiro, and 2 students from Class 1B, including Kendo herself and a girl with vine hair named Ibara Shiozaki. As they strategized before the match, Kendo addressed Izuku directly. "You are the quirkless strategist everyone talks about. I am curious to see if the reputation is deserved." "I guess we will find out," Izuku replied calmly. Their opponents were formidable, including Bakugo, Kirishima, Mina, and 2 Class 1B students with powerful quirks. The match would be challenging. Izuku quickly assessed his team's capabilities and began formulating a plan. Todoroki, your ice and fire give us battlefield control. Jiro, your sound can provide reconnaissance and disruption. Kendo, your big fists are perfect for direct engagement. Shiozaki, your vines can create barriers and capture opponents. They outlined a complex strategy that utilized each person's strengths while covering weaknesses. The team listened attentively, even Todoroki, who rarely took direction from others. You think tactically, Kendo observed approvingly. Most people just focus on raw power. Power without strategy is just chaos, Izuku replied. Strategy without power is useless. We need both. The match began, and Izuku's plan unfolded beautifully. He coordinated movements, called out positions, and adapted in real time as opponents made unexpected moves. When Bakugo tried his usual aggressive approach, Izuku had anticipated it and positioned Todoroki perfectly to counter. Jiro's reconnaissance allowed them to track enemy movements. Shiozaki's vines created defensive positions. Kendo's strength secured key objectives. And Todoroki's quirk control dominated the battlefield. They won decisively, and even Izawa looked impressed. Excellent coordination, the teacher said during the debrief. Midoriya, your tactical direction was the deciding factor. You made 5 individuals function as a cohesive unit within minutes. After training, Kendo approached Izuku again. I am impressed, she admitted. You really do live up to the hype. How did you learn to read a battle so quickly? Years of studying hero fights and having to compensate for not having a quirk, Izuku explained. When you cannot rely on power, you learn to see patterns and exploit opportunities. That is a valuable skill, Kendo said. You know, Class 1B has a study group that meets weekly. You should join us sometime. We could learn a lot from your analytical approach. I would like that, Izuku agreed, exchanging contact information with her. As Kendo walked away, Jiro appeared at Izuku's side. Making friends with the competition. She teased. Making friends everywhere, apparently, Izuku replied with a self-deprecating smile. It is becoming a pattern. Jiro studied him with her sharp perceptive eyes. You know, I did not pay much attention to you at first. Thought you were just another try-hard who would wash out. But you are actually pretty impressive. Thanks, I think, Izuku said. That was a compliment, Jiro clarified. You are smart, strategic, and you do not let your ego get in the way of team success. That is rare, especially among hero students. I appreciate that, Kyoka, Izuku said, using her first name deliberately. Jiro's cheeks colored slightly. We are on first-name basis now. Seemed appropriate after working together so well, Izuku said with a slight smile. Fine, Izuku, Jiro said, trying to sound annoyed but clearly pleased. Just do not get all weird about it. As they walked back to the changing rooms, Tsuyu fell into step beside them. Call me observant, but you are collecting female friends at an impressive rate, Izuku. Is that a problem? Izuku asked. Not a problem, Tsuyu said. Just an observation. Though I am curious about your intentions. My intentions are to build a network of capable heroes I can trust and work with effectively, Izuku replied, which was true if incomplete. Tsuyu said, her expression thoughtful. That is a very practical answer that does not quite address the question. Before Izuku could respond, Mina bounded over with her usual enthusiasm. That match was so cool. Deku, you're like a puppet master, but for heroes. You made everyone look amazing. It was a team effort, Izuku deflected. Yeah, but you were the brain, Mina insisted, linking her arm through his as they walked. Hey, I was thinking we should all hang out this weekend. Like a class bonding thing. Maybe karaoke bowling or something fun. That sounds great, Izuku agreed. Awesome. I will organize it, Mina declared. This is going to be so much fun. As the group dispersed to change, Achako and Momo converged on Izuku simultaneously. You were amazing out there, Achako said, her eyes shining with pride. Your tactical coordination has improved significantly, Momo added. The way you adapted to Bakugo's aggression mid-match was particularly impressive. Thanks, both of you, Izuku said, genuinely appreciating their support. Also, Achako continued more quietly, I noticed that girl from Class 1B was very interested in talking to you. Kendo, Momo supplied. She is intelligent and perceptive. She would be a valuable connection. Just a connection? Achako asked, raising an eyebrow. For now, yes, Izuku confirmed. Though I am learning that my friendships sometimes develop into something more complicated. Just remember our agreement, Momo reminded him gently. Transparency before action. Always, Izuku promised. That evening, as Izuku rode the train home, his phone buzzed with multiple messages. The group chat Mina had created for weekend plans was already blowing up with suggestions and debates. Nijire had texted asking about training schedules. Mei sent pictures of new support equipment prototypes. Kendo messaged about study group details. And underneath it all, separate threads with Achako and Momo, each conversation different but equally important to him. His web was expanding rapidly, threads connecting him to more people every day. The question that nagged at him was whether he was still controlling the web or if the web was beginning to control him. Part 3. Friday Training and Revelations. Friday morning brought an unexpected announcement. All Might stormed into the classroom with his usual bombastic energy, his smile impossibly wide. Good morning, young heroes. Today we have a special treat. You will be participating in a joint exercise with some third-year students, including the Big Three. The class erupted in excited chatter. Training with the school's top students was a rare opportunity that could teach them invaluable lessons. Ijiro Hato, Tamaki Amajiki, and Mirio Tagada entered the classroom, and the energy shifted immediately. These were legends at UA, students who had already received provisional hero licenses and worked real cases. Ijiro immediately spotted Izuku and waved enthusiastically. Midoriya. Perfect, I was hoping I would get to work with you today. The exercise took place at one of UA's largest training facilities, a massive urban simulation, complete with buildings, streets, and various hazards. The scenario was a large-scale villain attack with multiple objectives, requiring coordination between numerous heroes. Izuku found himself in a leadership position almost immediately. His reputation for tactical thinking had spread, and even third years were looking to him for strategic coordination. The simulation began with chaos. Multiple villain actors played by support corps students and robots attacked from various directions. Civilians, played by mannequins and holograms, needed rescue. Buildings were collapsing. Fires were spreading. Izuku's mind shifted into overdrive, processing dozens of variables simultaneously. He began issuing commands, his voice clear and confident over the communication system. Todoroki, Endeavor Building, East Side. I support on floors 3 through 7. Iida, Evacuation Route Alpha, you have speed for extraction. Uraraka, work with Zero on debris removal, gravity plus tape equals fast clearing. He coordinated 20 students simultaneously, adjusting strategy in real time as situations evolved. When a new threat appeared, he redirected resources. When civilians were in danger, he prioritized rescue over combat. Ijiro worked alongside him, her wave motion quirk providing both offense and utility. What she lacked in strategic thinking, she made up for with experience and raw power. Together, they formed an effective command team. You are really good at this, Ijiro said during a brief lull. Most people freeze up when coordinating this many variables. I have practiced, Izuku replied, still monitoring multiple communication channels. Every hero fight I have ever watched, I analyze the coordination and decision making. This is just applying that knowledge. It is more than that, Ijiro insisted. You have a gift for seeing the whole picture while tracking individual details. That is rare. The simulation continued for 90 minutes, an exhausting mental and physical challenge. When All Might finally called time, Izuku's team had achieved the highest civilian rescue rate and lowest collateral damage of any group that semester. Outstanding work, All Might boomed. Young Midoriya, your coordination was masterful. You directed heroes with more experience than you and made it look natural. The third years approached after the debriefing. Mirio Tagada, a blonde boy with a permanent smile, clapped Izuku on the shoulder. That was impressive, first year. You have got the makings of a great hero. Thanks, Izuku said, genuinely honored to receive praise from one of the Big Three. Tamaki Amajiki, the quietest of the three, spoke softly. Your strategic thinking is intimidating. I could barely keep up with your commands, and I have been doing this for years. You did great, Izuku assured him. Your manifest quirk is incredibly versatile, and you used it perfectly for both combat and rescue. Ijiro linked her arm through Izuku's possessively. See, I told you he was special. Midoriya, we should definitely train together regularly. You could help me develop new tactical applications for my quirk. I would be happy to, Izuku agreed. As the students dispersed, Izuku noticed Achako and Momo watching his interaction with Ijiro. Their expressions were complex, a mixture of pride in his performance and uncertainty about the third-year girl's obvious interest. Later, during lunch, the three of them sat together at their usual spot. Ijiro seems very interested in you, Momo observed carefully. She is friendly with everyone, Izuku deflected. She is friendly, yes, Achako agreed. But the way she looks at you is different. Trust me, girls notice these things. Do you think she likes him? Momo asked Achako directly, their growing friendship allowing such direct questions. Definitely possible, Achako replied. She kept finding excuses to touch him and get close during training. Should I be worried? Izuku asked, uncertain how to navigate this particular complication. Not worried, Achako said. But aware. Remember our agreement, transparency before action. If Ijiro expresses romantic interest, you need to be upfront about your existing relationships, Momo added. That is only fair to everyone involved. Agreed, Izuku promised. Though I am hoping I am misreading the situation and she is just being friendly. You are smart about everything except reading romantic interest directed at you, Achako laughed. It is kind of adorable. The afternoon brought regular academic classes, but Izuku's mind kept returning to the morning's events. His performance had been exceptional, drawing attention from students and teachers alike. That attention brought opportunities but also complications. After school, Mei Hatsum ambushed him at the gates, practically dragging him toward the support course development studio. Midoriya. Perfect timing, she said breathlessly. I finished your combat analysis contacts and I need you to test them immediately. Right now? Izuku asked. Yes, right now. Science waits for no one, Mei declared. The development studio was organized chaos as always. Mei led Izuku to her workstation where several pieces of equipment waited. Okay, so these are the final version, she explained, holding up contact lenses that seemed to shimmer with embedded technology. They sync with your phone and provide real-time tactical overlays. Threat assessment, structural analysis, teammate positioning, everything you need to coordinate like you did this morning, but with enhanced data. This is incredible, Mei, Izuku said, examining the lenses carefully. How did you miniaturize all this technology? Lots of sleepless nights and possibly too much coffee, Mei admitted cheerfully. Now put them in and let's test them. Izuku carefully inserted the contacts, blinking as his vision adjusted. Suddenly, his field of view was overlaid with information. Distance measurements, structural integrity indicators, movement tracking, all processed and displayed without overwhelming his visual field. This is amazing, he breathed. The interface is intuitive, not distracting at all. Right? Mei grinned proudly. I calibrated it based on your neural processing speed, which is frighteningly fast by the way. Normal people would get overwhelmed, but your brain handles multiple data streams naturally. They spent the next hour testing various features. The contacts could identify people Izuku knew and display their hero names and quirks. They could highlight weak points in structures or opponents. They could even project simple tactical maps based on his surroundings. Mei, you are a genius, Izuku said sincerely. This could change everything for quirkless heroes. That is the goal, Mei replied, then her expression became more serious. But Midoriya, I need you to understand something. This tech is expensive, and I am giving it to you because I believe in what you are trying to accomplish. Do not waste it. I won't, Izuku promised. And I will help you improve the designs based on field testing. Perfect. Mei's enthusiasm returned immediately. We are going to revolutionize support equipment together. Now, let me show you the other babies I have been working on. The other equipment was equally impressive. Reinforced gloves with impact absorption, a jacket with built-in first aid supplies and communication boosters, boots with enhanced traction and minor shock absorption. Each piece was designed specifically for someone without a quirk who needed every possible advantage. As Izuku left the development studio, now equipped with prototype support gear, he felt a shift in his capabilities. He was no longer just the quirkless strategist. He was becoming something more, a hero who combined intelligence, training, and technology into a unique combat style. His phone buzzed. Multiple messages waited. Achako asking about dinner plans. Momo sending notes about weekend study sessions. Mina confirming karaoke for tomorrow. Nijira asking if he wanted to grab food. Kendo checking in about Class 1B study group. And a new message from an unknown number. Hello Midoriya. This is Ibara Shiozaki from Class 1B. I wanted to thank you for your excellent leadership during today's training. Your tactical acumen is truly a blessing. I would love to discuss hero philosophy with you sometime if you are amenable. May the Lord guide your path. Izuku stared at the message, processing this new development. Ibara was deeply religious, incredibly kind, and apparently interested in talking with him more. He was building a network alright, but it was becoming increasingly complex to manage. Every new connection brought opportunities and complications in equal measure. As he rode the train home, Izuku reflected on how much had changed in just 3 weeks. He had come to UA expecting to manipulate his way to success. Instead, he was forming genuine connections that made him question his entire approach to relationships and heroism. The question was whether this made him more human or more dangerous. And Izuku genuinely did not know the answer. Part 4. Saturday Social Dynamics. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, sunny and warm with a gentle breeze. Mina had organized a class outing with her characteristic enthusiasm, settling on a karaoke place followed by dinner at a popular all-you-can-eat restaurant. Izuku arrived at the meeting spot to find most of Class 1A already gathered. Achako waved cheerfully from where she stood with Tsuyu and Hagakure. Momo was engaged in conversation with Iida about proper karaoke etiquette. Bakugo looked annoyed to be there, but had apparently been dragged along by Kirishima. Eku? Mina called out, bouncing over. You made it. This is going to be so fun. The karaoke place was large enough to accommodate their entire class in a private room. The next 3 hours were a chaotic blend of terrible singing, embarrassing song choices, and bonding through shared musical suffering. Izuku discovered several things. Jiro had an amazing voice and actually took music seriously. Bakugo refused to sing, but eventually got pressured into a surprisingly good rendition of a rock song. Momo knew every classical piece but struggled with pop music. Achako was enthusiastic but tone-deaf. Mina turned everything into a performance complete with choreography. When Izuku's turn came, he chose a mid-tempo inspirational song and performed competently if not spectacularly. The class cheered anyway, supportive of everyone's attempts regardless of skill level. During a break, Jiro sat next to him while others were performing. "You are not terrible," she said. "Not great, but not terrible." "High praise coming from you," Izuku teased. "I mean it though," Jiro continued. "You have decent rhythm and you actually listen to the music instead of just shouting lyrics. That puts you ahead of most of these idiots." "Music is important to you," Izuku observed. "Have you written any original songs?" Jiro looked surprised. He asked. "Yeah, actually. A few. Mostly instrumental stuff for my hero work, but some lyrics too." "I would love to hear them sometime," Izuku said genuinely. "Art is just another form of expression and communication. Understanding how you express yourself through music would be interesting." Jiro's cheeks colored slightly. "That is, actually really cool of you to say. Most people do not get why I care so much about music when we are supposed to be training to be heroes." "Being a hero is not just fighting villains," Izuku replied. "It is about expressing your values and connecting with people. Music does that as powerfully as any quirk." "Damn, Midoriya," Jiro said softly. "You are deeper than I gave you credit for." Their conversation was interrupted by Mina dragging Izuku back to perform a duet with her. The song was upbeat and silly, and Mina's enthusiasm was infectious. By the end, the whole class was dancing and singing along. After karaoke, they moved to the restaurant, a massive place with dozens of food stations. The class scattered to grab food, then gradually clustered into smaller conversation groups. Izuku found himself at a table with Achako, Momo, Mina, Tsuyu, and Jiro. The dynamic was comfortable, easy conversation flowing between all of them. "So Deku," Mina said between bites, "what is your type? Like, what qualities do you look for in people?" The question made everyone at the table pay close attention, even those pretending to focus on their food. "I value intelligence, honesty, and genuine kindness," Izuku replied carefully. "People who challenge me to think differently and who care about more than just power or status." "That is very mature," Tsuyu observed. "Most boys our age just focus on appearance." "Appearance matters," Izuku admitted. "But it is not the most important thing. I have found that the more I get to know someone, the more attractive their personality makes them physically." "Smooth answer," Jiro said with a slight smirk. "Diplomatic and genuine at the same time." "It is true though," Izuku insisted. "Achako and Momo, you both became more beautiful to me as I got to know your personalities and values." Both girls blushed at the unexpected compliment, and Mina made exaggerated swooning gestures. "Oh my god, that is so romantic. Deku, you are like a shoujo manga protagonist, but better because you mean it." The conversation shifted to lighter topics, but Izuku noticed Jiro watching him with a thoughtful expression, like she was re-evaluating something she had previously dismissed. Later, as the group was leaving the restaurant, Jiro pulled Izuku aside briefly. "Hey, can I ask you something kind of personal?" "Of course," Izuku replied. "Are you and your Rocket dating?" Jiro asked bluntly. "And possibly Yaoi Rozu too? Because if so, that is, well, unusual, but also kind of cool that you are all open about it." "Yes, to both," Izuku confirmed. "We are trying something unconventional based on honesty and communication. It is complicated but it feels right for us." "That is actually really mature," Jiro said. "Most people just sneak around or cause drama. You are being upfront about it." "We are trying," Izuku agreed. "It is not easy, but transparency seemed better than the alternative." "For what it is worth," Jiro continued, "I think it is cool that you are all making your own rules instead of just following what society expects. That takes courage." "Thanks, Kyoka," Izuku said. "That means a lot." As they rejoined the group, Izuku caught Achako and Momo watching with knowing expressions. They had clearly noticed Jiro's interest and were monitoring the situation. The class eventually split up to head home, tired but happy from a successful group outing. As Izuku walked Achako and Momo to the train station, the three of them fell into comfortable conversation. "The day was fun," Achako said. "I am glad Mina organized it. The class feels more like a family now." "Group bonding is important for hero work," Momo agreed. "We need to trust each other completely in dangerous situations." They reached the station, and before parting ways, the three of them stood together for a moment. "I am happy," Achako said suddenly. "Like, genuinely happy. This thing we are doing, it is weird and complicated, but it makes me happy. Me too, Momo admitted. I have never had friends like this, relationships where I feel valued for who I am, rather than what I can provide. Same, Izuku agreed. You both make me want to be a better person. They shared a group hug, comfortable and warm, before separating to catch their respective trains. As Izuku rode home, he pulled out his phone and opened his notes app. He had been documenting his thoughts and observations throughout this entire experience, trying to understand his own motivations and feelings. He began typing. Week 3 complete. Network expanding beyond initial projections. Relationships with Achako and Momo stabilizing into something sustainable and genuine. New potential connections developing with Jiro, Kendo, possibly Najira and others. Strategic assessment. My influence in Class 1A is significant. I am seen as trustworthy, intelligent, and capable. People come to me for advice, strategy, and support. Emotional assessment. Lines between manipulation and genuine connection are increasingly blurred. I care about these people beyond their strategic value. This was not part of the original plan. Question. Have I been manipulating them, or have they been changing me? Additional question. Does it matter if the outcome is positive for everyone involved? Conclusion. Re-evaluation of core assumptions required. Original goal was power through manipulation. Current reality is connection through authenticity mixed with strategy. New goal. Become the hero I have been pretending to be, while maintaining the strategic advantages that got me here. He saved the note and put his phone away, staring out the window at the city lights passing by. Izuku Midoriya had started this journey as a manipulator, someone who viewed people as chess pieces to be moved strategically. But somewhere along the way, the chess pieces had become real people, and the game had become genuine life. Whether that made him more dangerous or more human remained to be seen. But for the first time in his life, Izuku was choosing to find out. Thanks for watching my video, and have a lovely day. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.